Hello, this is Brad Harvey. Today's question that we're going to answer is, how do I know if my retirement plan is on track? Now, this is one of those kind of squishy questions that we get a lot, and it's a very difficult question to answer in terms of just dollars and cents. However, there are some rules of thumb that we can certainly follow from a planning perspective. The first rule of thumb is, well, we need to know how much do you need today to live the lifestyle that you want to live. What is that number? And we tend to think of that number in terms of monthly cash flows. So maybe that number is $5,000 a month. Maybe it's $10,000 a month. Who knows? Whatever that number is, then we need to do a little bit of a time value of money calculation and determine, all right, if you're 50 years old and you retire at age 65, well, that's 15 years from now. Perhaps $10,000 a month 15 years from now, when we include the impact of inflation, maybe that number's $20,000 a month. That's a math problem, not terribly complicated to work through. Then, when we look into retirement, so we have growth, that's making sure that we have enough money to support our cash flow needs in retirement, and this is all about cash flow. Then, when we get into retirement, how is that money going to be used? So if we're planning on $10,000 a month in today's dollars, what happens if we start to have an unusual expense, whether it's healthcare or travel or something that we hadn't planned on while we were still working? I think that it's a good rule of thumb to assume that you're going to spend the same amount of money, certainly in the first 5 to 10 years of retirement, that you were spending while you were working. Of course, how you spend that money is going to change. You're probably going to spend more money on travel and leisure and not so much on your cleaning bill and buying clothes to go to work in. So as we look at that, that's the next phase in retirement, and we want to include those numbers as we're doing our analysis. A good rule of thumb in the industry is 4%. They call that the foundation spending rule. Well, if we need $10,000 a month, which is $120,000 a year, how much money do we need in a portfolio so that that $120,000 is 4%? Well, it's not a terribly difficult math problem. That's $3 million. So at $3 million today, if we follow that rule, that should give us $10,000 a month. However, that's not the whole story. We want to include taxes. We need to include inflation. And we also need to look at what the current available cash flow investment rate is. Yields have all fallen quite a bit lately. And so we want to make sure that we're planning for that. And if we can only get a 2 or 3% yield in our portfolio, well, then 4% doesn't make sense. We'll need to accumulate even more. Then we have other questions like, all right, how long can I expect to live? Statistically speaking now, couples that are 65 currently are living well into their 90s, at least one of them is. So we need to plan for that. I think it's a good idea to plan up to age 100. Then you also want to take a look at the next phase. How do I transfer this wealth to my heirs and my loved ones, if that's one of your goals? Or perhaps you want to give to some philanthropic cause. I think that it's very important to sit down and plan out this strategy. So phase 1 is accumulation, phase 2 is access, and phase 3 is transfer. And remember, the golden rule of accumulating wealth and protecting wealth is spend less than you make. So if your portfolio is generating $120,000 a year in income to you, and that's after all costs and taxes and everything else, great. But if it's only generating $100,000, you want to live on less than that. That's just one of life's little rules on protecting and growing wealth. So, this is Brad Harvey. Today's question that we answered is, how do I know if my retirement is on track? Thank you. Thanks for visiting our channel. We hope you found the information valuable. If you want to see more videos about investing, please click to subscribe. If you have any questions you'd like for us to answer, please send us an email to harvey@riagroups.com. We would love your feedback.